Okay, we are live. We'll just give
Oh,
folks a minute or two to sign on here. So, Tish, what's the weather like there? How's everything looking? Is it good for the campaign or what?
yeah. Well, yeah. I was just running around today. It's such a big riding. I'm trying to meet as many people as possible. Beautiful day in Ontario. Classic fall day and unbelievable conversations.
Yeah, and how big is the riding?
It is huge. I don't know geographically, and you know what else it is? It's purple. It is purple. We have given Erin O'Toole a huge run for his money, and thank you to the unbelievable supporters. I mean, one family built these absolutely stunning signs, and I don't know if you can see my signs. All say on them, "Every Canadian is essential," and that's what I really believe. It's my own message.
Yep.
Because we all count, and it's one of the many things I think was done that is wrong for us. There's some of us more important. We're all essential. So all my signs say that. And yeah, it's a huge riding though. Like we've got North Oshawa, we got Port Perry, Blackstock, Greenbank, Burkton, Inniskillen. We got Clarington, Bowmanville. I mean, it just goes. Curtis, it goes, huge geographical area, a lot of rural farmers as well in this riding. Yeah. And I'm a huge supporter of farmers. So we're trying to get out and meet as many people as possible. But, it's been a race since the snap election was announced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got over 50 people watching. I can see right now, so we might as well just dive right into it and get started.
Sure.
So I just want to welcome you to the conversation, Patricia. This is Patricia Conlin. She's running as the PPC candidate in Durham, head to head with Erin O'Toole, which is a very interesting position to be in. So, Tisha, if you don't mind, maybe you can get us started just explaining what got you into this, what brought you into the PPC, and why you kind of took this on head on the way you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. And I mean, I could write a book. I was going to write a book on resilience, as with my background in martial arts. I'm the first woman in Canada to get my black belt in shoot wrestling. Just a tidbit there.
Oh, yeah, I did wrestling too for years back in.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of Joe Rogan because it would be great to get on that show and talk about all sorts of stuff. But over a year ago, I noticed some things that were, going really seriously wrong. And I started contacting my own, local government. And Erin O'Toole is the MP here. Never heard back from schools, et cetera, all sorts of things. And, it just got worse and worse and worse. And then finally, in January of this year, I was talking to my partner and I said, I can't stay silent anymore. I'm just going to have to run in the next election. I voted conservative my whole life, but a lot of people were telling me about the platform of PPC. And when I looked at it, there was nothing better for Canada. It's the only Canada First sovereign platform with common sense policies that really support a prosperous country for everybody, whether you're a student or you're, retired. And so people have been flocking to me in droves from all these other parties. But my own story, when I started doing this, a lot of people, because there's been this slandering of PPC, which is now, you can't even hold on to those sort of fabricated stories anymore because the movement is so powerful and it encompasses every type, every Canadian, all backgrounds, everyone from all over the world are coming to PPC because freedom is foundational. But when I started this, I was persecuted, I was slandered, I was sued, I lost my speaking. I've had a lifelong recruitment firm, so I've been a successful business owner, and I understand the importance of jobs. Job creation, everything else. So, I mean, the story for me is, despite everything, all of the setbacks in the journey of PPC, I am stronger than ever. And the movement of PPC, this particular platform, is growing exponentially, as you can see in the poll. So for me, it was initially just the frustration of not being able to get true to the political establishment on the harm being done by these measures, and then not being afraid to speak up. And then it just escalated. And this year, having this snap election, but the experience is so moving and so powerful that, and the number of people coming to PPC, this is not going to stop the next Monday. It's just going to grow and grow.
Well, so it's similar to, when I was conservative supporter for the longest time, but we had March of 2020 occur. And since March of 2020, I didn't see a single member of the Conservative Party stand up and fight for rights and freedoms. But there were some, but if they did, they were promptly removed from the party for doing it.
Yes.
So that's what pushed me into a corner here where I just, like I see we have a comment here about splitting the vote, and it's just like, to me, it's not about vote splitting. I can't vote for a party that has supported authoritarianism. I can't vote for a party that stomped on our rights and freedoms and been silent about it, destroyed businesses and been silent about it, supported the destruction of my children's futures and been silent about it, when we have a party that has a basis of freedom right in front of us, that's just pounding their chest saying, we want freedom for Canadians.
Exactly.
And that's really, to me, it's even more about the fact that you guys are based off of freedoms and rights than anything that drew me to you, right?
Well, and it's so smart, Rob, because at the same myself, I was a lifelong conservative voter because my first job at a university was in government. I have friends in government, so I'm not slamming anyone. But for me as an entrepreneur, I saw the benefits of privatizing and, private sector and just, having seen the unbelievable things that have happened with the policies and no one standing up at PPC. I think you see a very clear divide, and people are telling me all over that without freedom, there is no democracy. The other parties, all of them have very similar platforms. If you really look at it, Conservatives, Liberal, and NDP, they all support the UN agenda, a move to a more totalitarian. I don't like to say that. Everyone said, well, it really is less privacy for us, less rights, less freedoms. You can fill in the blank what that means. I mean, there's a great quote I always like to read. I'm just going to look at, because Benjamin Franklin, he really talked about, I don't know if you, let me just see if I can find that quote. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And I think really a lot of people tell me, well, I'll just do this and then maybe it will get better. And then maybe I did that, but now I have to do this and I'll just do that. And what I think we have to realize that eventually you have to just say, no, enough is enough.
Yep.
This assault on our freedoms. And every single person I've met who's part of the PPC, who's running in the election, has incredible people. They're doing it for the right reason. They're standing up for the future of our children, for themselves, for their families, for their loved ones. And this is definitely not going to stop. There will be a number of seats won by PPC. I mean, there's no such thing as vote splitting. It's one group, one block of all saying the same thing, and PPC. That's the only choice, in my opinion.
Well, and again, just it's astonishing to me that, we can have this conversation and people, there's never a right time. Okay. Like, this is the thing that gets me. Everybody says, let's do it now to get Trudeau out. Well, guess what? In 4 years' time, we're going to have another election. And then the narrative is going to be, well, don't vote split now to keep the Liberals out because of what happened last time. And it's just going to keep going and going and going. And again, for me, just this stance of freedom, which is, it's not something I can compromise as a voter. I can't sit down and say, I'm going to vote for authoritarian light because it keeps I'm not going to vote for a different brand of authoritarianism, which is exactly what they've proven to us over the last 16 months. I need to vote for this. I can't not. You guys have given me the only option I can take as far as freedoms go. And it's really disheartening to see so many Canadians, what's insane to me is you'll be attacked for saying, I want to vote for rights and freedoms. You'll be attacked as a bad person in Canada today for making that statement. Wow. Has the Western world ever become warped when you're a bad person for voting for rights and freedoms, right?
It's a bit of a science fiction movie going on. And there's a lot of really sad stories. If you look at the facts alone, and I've spent not just the months campaigning, but previous, witnessing, like, you look at the suicide, even our youth, it's not a matter of left and right. What we're experiencing now is very clear and fundamental right and wrong. It's wrong what's happening to our children in the schools, these oppressive mandates. It's wrong what's happening with these lockdowns. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And they're doing lockdown after lockdown. We will never, ever have zero COVID. People have to understand you don't contain a virus that way. If you study the work of Dr. Zach Bush, amazing man, beautiful man, he talks about a lot of things. There's billions and billions and billions upon billions of viruses just around us. They're genetic markers. They float through everything. They're so minuscule. A mask will never stop them. So all of these mandates, they're not grounded on actual science. And when you experience the tragedy, even I'm sure you have in your own, in your own province, lockdowns, catastrophic life lost, missed cancer treatments and surgeries. I mean, the list goes on, even the conflict in families, right?
This opioid overdoses doubled in Alberta in 1 year from 600 to 1,200.
Yes.
And the only thing that changed was the lockdowns. I mean, people can argue against it all they want, but it's because of lockdowns this is happening. Calls to the Kids Help Phone in 2020 went from 2 million to 4 million. And when you look on a per family basis, that's like you're almost a 1-for-1 ratio there. Call to the Children's Helpline per family, and it's just unreal how everybody can just turn a blind. We're seeing religious leaders get arrested for simply practicing their religion. And again, I haven't seen a single conservative candidate actually successfully stand up and remain in the party speaking out about these things. Even the prominent ones that I've always supported and I still have some amount of respect for, they're still silent about it all because they know that it's dangerous within their party to speak up about these things. And again, that's just another sign to me that I need to move to a different party if we don't have people who have that integrity that they can do that, right?
Well, it is. It's a matter. They're pushing us to a point where you have to make a choice, what's right and wrong. And that's why I say that it's not a political left and right. And I want people to understand that it's wrong to have a passport society, particularly when, I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist. I've written a book on health. And, for me, I like to, when I'm coaching people, what's your life mission? Well, my mission in life, and I established this, was to help people live healthier and happier lives. Mm-hmm. And my mission was, when I looked at what was happening, I could not stay silent because we are actually on a train wreck of destruction, destroying our country, our society, destroying lives, and destroying people's health with all these measures. It must stop. And we need more and more people to stand up. We have now doctors standing up, speaking out more so. We need more nurses. The movement is growing. And I think more and more people are not afraid to speak up and speak the truth. And that's going to help in the future. But, couldn't come soon enough because of the tragedies happening all over our country and all over the world because of these authoritarian measures. And I never give up. I never stop when people talk to me. And if they have a different point of view, and I try to do this with love, I'm giving them the facts. No, it's not working. It's not helpful. And it's actually harmful to our health and the health of our country, so that's just COVID. But I mean, if you look at everything else in terms of PPC, and I mean, it's just basic common sense that we open up our oil and gas sector. Yep. I mean, why are we importing oil from Saudi Arabia with all their human rights? I mean, and if you're one of these climate alarmists, I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. I love the earth, the soil. Believe me, I'm a big fan of regenerative farming. And if we just get rid of the toxic chemicals, did you know if we ban glyphosate or reduce it over a period of time, our soil would absorb all the extra carbon. So we don't even, and would turn it to nutrient dense food. So we don't need a carbon tax. It's just a gross tax grab. And where does that money go? But opening up our oil and gas sector, all those amazing Canadians, I love Western Canada. Please know that I support you. I want to get our oil and gas sector open. And when you think of it, that we're transporting oil on cargo ships and rail, it's, there's the opportunity for environmental hazard is so much more likely.
Yep.
Open our pipelines, open our oil and gas sector. I have had conversations with GM. We are not there for technology for electronic vehicles. When the infrastructure is not set up, even if it were, think of all the thousands of products that have oil. Canada is a resource country. And, to shut down resources is just bankrupting us.
Well, and the insanity behind it is the political pressure on these parties that they cave to, that it limits our ability to grow these resources and these industries and everything. And there's so many paid actors involved in this that keep these industries suppressed. And what I'm looking for in a party, and what I'm seeing in you guys, is I want an unapologetic party that's going to say screw you to all of these people who are applying political pressure and do the right thing, which is grow our industry, create jobs for people, ignore the noise, and just chug along and move forward like we should be doing. Because the only thing we've done is harm ourselves. There's nothing we've done from a liberal stance to improve the planet in any way, shape, or form. We've only shot ourselves in the foot. So somebody needs to stand up and say enough is enough. We're taking the reins now, and we're in charge of our own destiny. Not these paid players, not these external sources or forces that are driving our economy into the gutter. When we've got some of the biggest oil deposits on the face of the planet right now.
I think we're number 3 in the world.
Number 3, and we're producing what, maybe 3 to 4.5 million barrels a day right now is where we're at, right?
It's it's insanity. I mean, this is my view. Right now we have politicians, and the word is kind of associated negatively. We need political leaders. What a leader does is they tell the truth, even if it hurts people initially. This is what's going on. They're not afraid to tell the truth, and what they're doing doesn't harm people. So they're always trying to do good. And what has clearly happened with these politicians, whether, we don't know the behind the scenes, whether there's been funding, et cetera, but they're doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. There's no integrity, and there's no care for the people who are paying them in these roles. And, the other final thing a real leader does is they create unity. We have right now, it's again the opposite. These politicians are doing the most divisive policies going. I look at my flag, and as I go to my, drive by, and it's at half mast still. Why is that? Why in Canada do we have flags in schools still at half mast? Whatever happened in our residential schools, needs to be thoroughly investigated, and whatever, and that's on the government. But every citizen of Canada, we are kind people. We are amazing people. We're tolerant, and we're good people. The vast majority of Canadians, we are so accepting of other people that this telling us all of these divisive things is another incredibly wrong strategy. We need to put our flag back up high. And every Canadian in their heart needs to realize our national anthem, "Oh Canada," let's stand on guard for Canada. Canadians are amazing people. So what's happening now, divisiveness, harm, and lies, basically. And we need real leaders who will tell the truth. That means sometimes people don't want to hear the truth, but it's going to be the best for them to know it so that we can do better in the future together.
Well, and let's dig into that divide a little further, because it's a frightening divide that we're running here. Again, back to the conversation about this authoritarian creep we're seeing in the Western world and what's been happening. We've actually, and this is one of the pieces I think for PPC voters that is hugely important, when we get accused of vote splitting and we get that pressure from conservatives to not, they put it on our shoulders to say it's our fault if Trudeau gets back in. Well, guess what, guys? You need to compromise your support for authoritarian leadership. I don't need to compromise my support for freedoms. That's what needs to happen here. Those people need to wake up, and they need to pull their support away from those sorts of things, not demand that I, as a freedom-loving Canadian, pull my support away from freedom to give them some kind of sense of normalcy that they see. No, there can be so much more, and we're not seeing it with the parties that are in place now, and we're not going to see it. We're going to see them continue to prop this up, and we're going to continue to see that leftist slide, that Overton window slide to the left further and further. And no matter who we get in, unless it's a freedom-loving platform, unless it's a platform that's going to shift that thing in the other direction, we're in a dangerous place right now. And again, it's not about me compromising my support for freedom. These people need to wake up and understand they're supporting literal authoritarianism. They're supporting the violation of rights and freedoms on a scale never seen before in Canada. And they're demanding that I do the same thing. Yes. To help them win more authoritarianism. Like, it's absolute insanity to me what I'm hearing, right?
It is. And when it comes to something like the passports, another really hot, volatile topic. So here, I'm trying to appeal to listeners on either side, but where I come from on this particular topic is it is so dangerous to be introducing passports. I strongly oppose them. They're unethical, they're immoral, and they're not even practical, for goodness sakes. We have on the website of these are all experimental vaccines, never been put in humans. That's something we can all agree on. There's no long-term studies. Anyone who says there is, anyone who claims they're safe is either ignorant or arrogant or both. And that was a phrase that I heard someone say from Alberta, a doctor, because we have seen, and on the website, it says it does not stop transmission or provide immunity. So mandating an experimental treatment that doesn't even provide immunity or stop transmission, when we have no safety data, the inventor of these vaccines, the RNA vaccines, Dr. Robert Malone, is being censored for screaming loudly that we should stop them, not use them. You've got doctors in Canada who are being censored for highlighting huge safety issues. Dr. Charles Hoff in BC is suing the government because he found 62% of his patients in Lytton, BC had microscopic clots. And they were healthy before they took the experimental vaccine. And he thinks that's so severe, it could be life-threatening. He did a D-dimer test. So the stories like that are all over the place. We know there are safe treatments available like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, erythromycin, even zinc, even vitamin D. They did a study in Indonesia. 80% of the people who succumbed to COVID were deficient in vitamin D, and over 80. So, I mean, why aren't we giving our wonderful elders in long-term care homes vitamin D supplements just as a basic? They're so inexpensive. So when you look at a passport and that volatility, people say, well, everyone should be getting the vaccine. It's your duty. I say, is it? Look, you've got natural immunity. I had COVID, and I have an antibody test. And according to studies, natural immunity is far longer lasting. So now already they're seeing people with breakthrough cases. I mean, there's just not enough research. We have safe treatments being suppressed. We have people with natural immunity. And my strong stance, is my opinion, is no one under 30 should be taking this experimental shot. You have statistically, you have a higher chance of being harmed or killed by the experimental shot under 30 than you do from getting COVID. Now, that's a fact that both the mainstream media you can actually find it there as well. Some things you can,
If we even pull this though outside of COVID, okay, if we just look at this at its face, that we've got a society, a Western civilization, a Western society right now that is not only entertaining but pushing the idea of requiring a piece of paper that identifies any kind of medical treatment that you had to allow you access to just the bare necessities, gyms, restaurants. Like, you have to, that is a huge breakthrough in Western civilization from an authoritarian stance.
Exactly.
Now, once they get that through, now they can convince us all they want it needs to be done because of COVID. But once it's there, it's there. And what else do they tack onto it from there?
Exactly.
Right? What else do we slide into now? Because they've broken that through and they've made everybody, okay, now we've accepted this. What then does that turn into? Well, now they have a whole system. They have a whole infrastructure that limits your access to just normal everyday things because you don't have the treatment that they've said you need to have. That to me is the scary part. And all this COVID stuff, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just thinking about the future and how they grow this further, because they've proven to us in the last year and a half, if they're going to do it, 2 weeks to flatten the curve to this, it's going to get worse, right?
You're right. I mean, and again, I am freedom of choice, right? If you've done your research and you really feel that the vaccines are good for you, wonderful. But if you also don't want to get, that's what a free society has, because we have to remember, whatever side you come from, freedom of choice, it doesn't provide immunity or stop transmission. We'll never have zero COVID. It's like a coronavirus. It will keep mutating. And people need to have informed consent. I personally don't believe we've been given informed consent properly. But yeah, whatever side you're on, having a passport is wrong. And, I really applaud. I've had these amazing conversations. This couple in their 80s, and they both had their vaccines, and they were saying, well, what are we going to do? Because we were told that we have to have this pass on our phone as of this date. They don't have phones. They don't have cell phones, and they were all in a kerfuffle, so these stories, like, what's happening? We're moving everything digitally. There's so many things that will go wrong. And we know already in Israel, now people are required to get a booster, or their passports aren't even.
What's the meme? It says, I can't wait until people who got their 4th vaccination are blaming the people who only have 3 for this.
Yeah, Isn't that, you have to laugh, I'm really proud of the people in my riding, because there's so many businesses who are standing up and saying, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing communist Canada. We're not having a passport system. We don't care. That's your own personal, private medical information. You're welcome at our blank hair salon, restaurant, gym, whatever. Come here. We're not even going to ask you. And I think I'm proud of those Canadians. They're standing up for what's right. And again, I said, this is a battle of right and wrong. And this is where every Canadian needs to really reflect personally the difference between right and wrong in our country. And I hope more and more people will choose what's right. And I don't mean politically right. I mean ethically, morally, legally, medically right for people. Freedom is what's right for us, our God-given freedoms in Canada.
Patricia, there's I think, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes here left. And there's one question that came up that I really want to answer here. And there's a gentleman. So back to the topic of voting, what do we do if the PPC doesn't get in? And you go ahead. I'll let you go. I've got some thoughts on this one as well. I'd like to touch on. You go first.
You know what? And I can go a little over. I know I'm happy to answer as many questions. So don't feel I want to rush your audience, because this is the most important thing I'll do in my life. And I am so committed to this. As I've said, I had a successful business speaking career, and all that's all gone. I've had lawsuits. I don't even care, because there's nothing more important. Everything will rebound. You got to take a strong stance on what you believe in and freedom. There will be people winning. If we have a fair and just election, there will be a number of people winning seats for PPC. So, and it doesn't take a lot of people to start saying no. Every single person that is voted, I don't care if it's me or someone else. I'm in a tough riding. Every single person who gets elected for PPC will say no to these repressive, oppressive measures that have done unprecedented harm. That's amazing. So I'm hoping there'll be quite a number. If we had the election even a month later, we could be quite a bit higher. In the future, I personally believe, my prediction is we will have either a minority government or even a majority, because more and more people, they will start waking up to the damage done from all of these oppressive measures. So that's just a prediction. I feel strongly. I feel I've called to do this. I've had a lifetime working, negotiating. I understand different people. I speak different languages. I've lived around the world. I've met new immigrants. I really want to do right by my country. So I feel like if PPC doesn't win in this particular riding, we will next time for sure. Of course, that's a prediction, but I feel pretty strongly. And I can see the momentum is just going to keep going. We will have an election within 18 months. I personally, this is again prediction, whether it's conservative if we get a conservative, say there's a number of things. We could get conservative minority government or liberal minority government, either one. There's going to be another election, and we're going to have enough PPC people in to start speaking up, and everyone's going to see that these people are doing the right thing, and they're the ones who aren't being handcuffed. I know a number of former conservatives who have had to step down, and I applaud them because they have integrity. They're throwing their support behind PPC candidates now. Yeah.
Oh, our local guy, David Yardiga, did the same thing with Sean McDonald here, which was
it's fantastic.
How can you not, right?
It's going to be exciting. I think the future of Canada is going to be purple.
Yeah. Now, I just wanted to touch on it a little bit because again, I think it's another misconception people have. They think that it's black and white. It's a win or loss here when it comes to these elections. And the fact of the matter is, it's not. This is first off, this is a game of attrition that we're playing here. Okay, we've got freedom-loving Canadians who are taking a stand. Yes, and we need to anchor ourselves in the direction of freedom. And pull the rest of these people who are willing to accept authoritarianism into our direction. Now, that's not going to happen in one election. That's going to be a longer game that's played here. But the fact of the matter is, if we have PPC members that do gain seats, that gives us influence. That gives us power in the House of Commons, right? And that allows us to speak out. And so really, it's if we get seats, it's still a win.
Yes,
right.
I tell that to the people because this riding, as I said, there's more PPC signs than any. And I mean, I go around and I look at the neighbors. They've got no more lockdowns and elect Patricia Conlin, and it just makes and then kids. They're teaching their kids about the importance of freedom. It makes me so happy. It's already a victory is what I tell everyone, whatever the results on Monday. And it's just starting. I mean, you don't know me. I've got perseverance. I'm a fighter and I'm just getting going, man. So I'm this is just round one, you know, like as a wrestler, round one, I got a few punches. I would go out, I'd get people hugging me and saying, thank you. And thanks for your courage. And then I get people, you know, slap, slap, hug, hug. I get people saying comments. And it just slides off me. So it's a win. PPC has, I think we fundamentally have shifted. We've just started turning the corner away from the tyranny because of this movement. I call it a movement, but and it's going to be good for every Canadian, young Canadians, old Canadians. We're going to open up our resource sector. We're going to protect people's primary assets. I don't know if we didn't talk about the platform too much, but those people who are conservatives, look, we're going to lower the income tax for businesses and for personal. Yep. We're going to protect your primary asset, which, against capital gains, that's huge. I mean, not little tax incentives that last for a month or 2 weeks or $3 or we'll give you a coffee. No, we're going to protect your primary asset. We're going to lower your income tax. We're going to scrap the carbon tax. I mean, that alone. I mean, wake up, Canada. We've been overtaxed. They've been just taking that money, and where does it go? Poof!
It's less about the stuff like Biden in the States. What was it? They reduced the cost of hot dogs at barbecues, and they actually projected that as a win for Americans. I was like, you guys are crazy, man. This is insane. We need real reform. We need somebody to come in and just cut this stuff down and put in the pieces that need to be in place, right?
We have got a rotten system through and through, and it's not going to be pretty, but we've started the rip. The education system needs total reform. I mean, the way our children, they're being indoctrinated. I mean, I think we have to create open-minded, critical thinkers. We have to have dialogue. Even in schools, I know my own children. You say, I don't agree with that. Oh, don't say that. You're wrong. It's only this. It's only what CNN said. And that's what they're telling our children. Yep. And children are now starting to speak up. And there's this whole group of young teenagers that are joining PPC because now, and they're getting the courage to say to the teachers, I don't agree with you, what you're saying. And aren't you isn't this becoming like political indoctrination, what you're teaching? I think there's another point of view. So I'm really proud of all those young adults who are starting to realize we have to have freedom of expression. We have to be able to openly debate. It's not about one way indoctrination that we're getting in our schools. It's about creating the leaders of the future. Yep. And having these debates. My mother was an amazing woman, the kindest woman, grew up, Cape Breton, intellectual, top of her class. So they were the nicest. Yeah. And then my dad was an engineer and they were like left, right brain. We'd have these fiery debates. And that was amazing because you were learning from each other, right? At night. And sometimes we agreed, sometimes we didn't, but you started to think about the other side. And then you're really learning. Now it's like you're down one path. And if anyone disagrees with you, they're out. They're not even a friend. You don't even consider what they're saying. We are getting entrenched cognitive biases. And I have a training company, tishconlin.com is my training division, and I've trained in cognitive bias. I identified 7 that have been implanted, and people are just blocked right now from, thinking about the other side. So I'm challenging people. Hey, are you always right? I know I've been wrong. Like, let's have a dialogue, and I'm willing to be wrong too. Like, hey, tell me your side. Let's just have an open mind where we're literally open to the possibility that the other person has information that we don't have. And then we're in an era where our mainstream media is absolutely lying to us all over the world. Is it Benjamin Disraeli said there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And that's another great quote for the era we're living in. But you got to realize that what you're being told isn't true. A lot of it isn't true. Maybe some of it, a thread, a grain. But when people start open up and have these dialogues with each other, I think we'll start to make progress. And the truth that the PPC has been telling, we've been telling it, like it is for a long time. In the beginning, a lot of people didn't like that. There was a lot of hostility. Now, more and more people are going, "Oh my God, you were right. Yeah. Thank you for your courage. Sign me up." We're the fastest growing political party in Canada by a mile. The polls, I think, underrepresent how much we've grown and how strong we are. Yeah. And I'm proud of every Canadian who realizes that freedom is foundational to our democracy, and there is no other choice other than PPC. And
I know you've got something you need to run to here, but I just wanted to make one final comment before we jump off the call.
Sure.
And that's regarding, and again, I'm very adamant about this accusation of vote splitting that keeps happening. And I just wanted to reiterate to everybody that there's no party that's entitled to my vote. There's no party that's entitled to any vote in Canada, okay? But if we do want to entertain the idea of vote splitting, we need to talk about who's doing it. And the parties who abandoned their base, the parties who moved too far to the left, they're the ones that are responsible for vote splitting, also known as losing my vote.
Yes, right? I agree.
The parties who step forward and support the things I want, freedoms, rights, constitutional rights and freedoms to be upheld, they earn my vote. So this whole conversation around vote splitting needs to stop. And people just need to get it through their heads that there's no party that is entitled or is guaranteed my vote under any circumstance whatsoever, right? So I just wanted to just throw that back out to everybody again, because I know everybody that I talked to. I was at an event with Bernier and Sean McDonald the other night. There was probably about 150 people there. And when I asked who's been accused of splitting the vote, every one of them said that they have been accused of splitting the vote.
Yes.
And it's an important argument that we have, and I think people need to be well equipped to have that conversation. Right?
I agree, and I challenge everyone. Look at the platform. Let's get out of the hysteria and look at the platform of the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP. Look at the actions of all these parties over the last 18 months. Actions speak volumes. Yep. And this is indicative, past performance is indicative of the future. And you're gonna get more of the same with all three. Yep. It's so easy for me because there's no such thing as vote splitting. It's moving towards totalitarians, assault on our freedoms. They're going to be doing more and more on our privacy as well. You're going to have the security, visual, you have to have face recognition. I mean, it's going to go on and on if we let it. And so you've got that. You've got the slide towards totalitarianism, and you've got this UN agenda and this globalist agenda that they all support, which is very harmful for Canada. Then you've got a common sense, practical party that puts Canada sovereignty first, that has a platform that is very responsible, wants to get rid of our inflation, wants to, work on all of the problems like housing. We've come up with a very practical plan for housing. And the foundation of all of it is freedom. Yeah. So it's not even a choice, in my view, not even. And that's why countless people are coming towards PPC, and it will continue. Absolutely.
No, awesome. Well, thank you very much for what you're doing, Tish.
My pleasure.
I wish you the best of luck. I know you've got the right aim, and you've got the right ideas in place here. I'm just hoping that the community's not so wrought with this brainwashing towards authoritarianism that they don't see it, right?
It will be Durham will be purple. If not Monday, then sometime soon. And freedom is so strong within all of us that I think a few more people need to understand and have a few more wake-up calls to what's happening, and it will happen. I'm 100% confident.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in early in the day. This is the first time we've done one at this time, but then again, thanks again for the conversation here, Tish.
It's been my pleasure, Rob. Hey, take care. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye now.